Thank you, Chairman LaHood, for holding this important hearing. I look back to when I first ran for this seat. It was just 3.5 years ago, and unemployment insurance was, just becoming a thing as we were trying to navigate the pandemic and, seeing workforce go through a stress point. And it was that moment that, to me, it was like, we're not going to be able to solve these things at the federal level. And it continually got worse. And the thing that was the most frustrating to a lot of my constituents, particularly small business owners, was not being able to hire people or not being able to get some of their folks back to work. That's an un-American concept. It's un-American. I get the pandemic was a tricky thing to navigate, and different states handled it different ways, but we can't ever get to that point again. We can't ever get to that point again where it was easier to stay home and engage in this type of program than it was to go back to work. And we didn't. I look back on it, and we made mistakes as a country, as a federal government, trying to do too much and creating unintended consequences. And I think that data will bear that out over the history of time. We saw an enormous amount of inflation right after the ARPA, or the American Rescue Plan, was passed. We cannot have so much money chasing too few goods, especially when there was a stress on supply chain and things like that. So, and that, I think, is leading to my main point. And one question simply that I have for Ms. Townsend, like Iowa, Utah is a state that has been on the forefront of creating high-performance service delivery models for the unemployed and those lacking the job skills required to fully participate in the workforce. And so my point here, ultimately, is what are we doing at the state level to make sure these programs are actually run well? And where do we get the outcomes? We're just not going to get the outcomes from the federal government. The nation's too big, population's too high, and we do not have the purview and the ability to properly target where the work needs to be done. The Utah Department of Workforce Services, Utah's integrated model for workforce and social assistance, simplified the application process for individuals seeking assistance, such as unemployment insurance, and provides a case manager who identifies suitable services based on an individual's needs. Can you, ma'am, speak to the effectiveness of individuals receiving unemployment benefits, having case managers, in shortening their duration on unemployment insurance and finding meaningful employment?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question, Representative Moore. So what we have found in Iowa is that when individuals, like I said before, come into the American Job Centers or contact Iowa Workforce Development after they've filed a claim for unemployment benefits, and we assign a single individual to help walk them through the process, most of them have not looked for a job for a period of time. Many of them have not looked for a new job for decades. And so, and as anyone who's been paying attention knows, the way to find a job now is not the way it was even 5 years ago, even pre-pandemic. So having someone available to help them navigate the new system of basically virtual and all digital application process, having someone available to look through your resume, because for instance, in Iowa, we have more jobs than we have unemployed, and I know it's the same in Utah. If you are applying for jobs and you are not getting a response, then the problem is probably in your resume. It's probably in the way that you're going about your job search. And so one of the things that we can do with the reemployment case management is look at what jobs are you applying for? Are they the right jobs for your skills and your experience? What other jobs should you be applying for? And is there something in your resume that we need to fix or improve? And so when they get that one-on-one assistance, it helps direct them not only to the better jobs that they may not have otherwise realized they were eligible for, but also gives them that support and the hope that I can get this job. And they do. And we see every day, we're seeing stories about people who are getting jobs that pay them way more than they were making before they became unemployed.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I think the irony that I can even, admit it myself, that I'm saying that having a case manager involved, some people would claim that's more bureaucracy, right? What I'm saying is, if we don't have that special attention to do this at the most basic level, where we're actually helping the individuals, we're going to continue, like Mr. Taylor was highlighting, just an enormous amount of fraud that slips through the system, unless you give it that special attention. And that's why I want to be able to communicate and help spread throughout the country that states that do this well, they need to be replicated. And we don't need to just continue to throw more money at the problem. You need to put the right type of resources at the ground level to help these individuals get out of this mess. And that should be an incredibly bipartisan approach. And if you look beyond the rhetoric, that is what this Working Welfare Committee is trying to do, is find the help that they need to get and lift people out of these horrible situations that they get put in. Ms. Townsend, to the rest of the witnesses, I appreciate your perspective, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. We'll recognize